Jamaica's Mount Pleasant Academy will be hosting a player identification combine from January 20 to 28 at their vast complex in Runaway Bay, St. Anne. Mount Pleasant are partnering with the Generation Next football club from Antigua and Barbuda. The combine will target male and female footballers between 13 and 24 years. Participants will be watched by football scouts from the United Kingdom, Dubai and the United States in the hope of earning scholarships to colleges in those three territories. They'll also be looking to earn professional contracts. Joining us to discuss what is an exciting opportunity are the principal of Mount Pleasant Academy, Vannie Clark, and Chief Executive Officer of the Fleetwood Town Football Group, Steve Kerwood. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us.
Good. Vannie, January 20 to 28, Mount Pleasant throws its doors wide open and invites the best of the prospects to come. What sort of attendance are you anticipating?
Normally when Mount Pleasant has anything, George, it's huge. You know that. We are anticipating hundreds to turn out. This is a fantastic opportunity for any youngster who desires to have a professional football career, or indeed any youngster who sees him or herself, as the case is, moving into college football and earning a scholarship. So we are expecting that the entire Jamaican football fraternity will come out and really take maximum use of this opportunity that's being presented.
Yeah, the partnership with Generation Next, how did that come about for this combine, and what is meant to be derived from the partnership?
The partnership came about out of primarily a desire on the part of Mount Pleasant to provide opportunities to all footballing youngsters in this country, but not just from the perspective of us having an academy, ensuring that kids are being developed, but ensuring that we put that next step to it. Now, Generation Next, they have experience in running successful combines. Imagine Generation Next running a combine in Antigua, and there are 18 persons gaining scholarship from that Twin Island nation. So I met with Ricky Santos, who is the general manager of Generation Next, and that arose out of a meeting with a friend of mine, Antoine Thompson, who is assistant manager, academy manager at Reading FC. And through that partnership, we started discussing the potential for having the largest combine in the Caribbean ever. And normally when combines are held in the Caribbean, they're normally, US scholarship offerings, but not so much UK, the Middle East, as is the case with this one. So we wanted to make it the largest, the most comprehensive combine possible. We wanted it to be available to both boys, girls, and young adults who perhaps are talented but do not have access to eyes, scouting eyes, looking at them. And so we thought that this would be the best way to go about doing that and ensuring that players, even at our Premier League level, are able to have eyes on them.
Coming to you in a minute, Steve. Let me just ask Vannie one more thing. Vannie, so you mentioned the fact that you've partnered with scouts from the United States, from the UK, and from the Emirate of Dubai. How did you come about spreading the scouting list across the three nations that you have? Was it deliberate strategy, or was it based on referrals from people who said, well, I know a guy from here, I know someone from there? How did the network that you're going to bring to Jamaica from January 2022 to 28, how did that come about?
So it's strategic. As I said, the partnership with Generation Next, they have extensive experience in this, and we lent on that a lot. Steve is on now, and Ricky Santos, who is the GM for Generation Next, he knows a lot of these guys personally, and so we networked that, and we we went about it in a strategic, targeted way. One of the things that we have, one of the groups that we have on board, and this came about through just moving through the network of persons who we thought would be interested in having representation here. We got Soccer Assist, who represents some 2,000 universities and colleges across the U.S. So it was strategic, but it was also born out of careful networking and utilizing different persons to ensure that we got to persons who were willing to come and who wanted to make the trip to Jamaica, who thought that there is enough talent here for them to come and eyeball.
Yep. Steve, good afternoon once again. Good to have you here. Are you in the UK or are you in Jamaica already?
I'm in the UK, thank you.
Ah, great. So very appreciate the fact that you stayed up late to facilitate this interview. Steve, Fleetwood Town Academy, people in Jamaica and in the Caribbean would have heard about Fleetwood Town in the news over many years for their involvement and their activities in football in the UK. Fleetwood Town coming to run the rule over these youngsters. What will your scouts be looking for?
I think you can look at many things really, and it's difficult sometimes in combines to see everything you possibly need. But I think it's just seeing those key aspects, the resilience, the athleticism, some of the tactical aspects of it. I think it's just generally what we can pick up in a very short space of time. But our scouts are experienced and they have the knowledge to see sometimes behind the trees. So. We've been introduced to the programme by Ricky. We've been across parts of the Caribbean before, but never to Jamaica, more smaller islands, Bermuda, etc. So, Ricky sold us really what is out there. And we know from being in the UK, ourselves at Fleetwood, we've had Amari Bell, who's been in the Jamaican side, and Jamil Matt, who was Kingston born. So we do know that the talent exists, as local as we know in Fleetwood. And it's a great opportunity to, I suppose, visit another part of the world and really get underneath what football looks like in the territory. I
can imagine, Steve, a parent perhaps coming to one of your scouts and saying, "Okay, so Fleetwood Town is a known name. It's been prominent for a long time. So, okay, you've taken an interest in my child, my son or my daughter. But on the other end, beyond what Fleetwood is looking for, what can I anticipate that you will do for my talented child who you've expressed an interest in?"
We've got many different programs globally now. The reason we're involved in this, and a lot of this came on the back of Brexit as well, where we opened some of our opportunities up to other parts of the world. We have a club in Dubai. We've mentioned Dubai. We also have a club ourselves in Dubai, South Africa, and more recently in the Republic of Ireland, which remains in the EU. And we have international development programs and education programs linked to all of our clubs, both in the UK and in those territories. So there's something for everybody, really, whether it's a younger age wanting just experience, whether it's somebody who's wanting a longer-term education and a scholarship program. There is a little bit for everybody. So it's horses for courses. It's what is that child, what is that parent really wanting, and what route we can then provide is by way of a pathway, whether it's shorter term, longer term, football generally, football and studies. It can be a bit of everything into the professional game in one of our territorial countries and the clubs we have, as I've articulated.
Steve, are you personally excited by the prospects of looking at the Jamaican talent? Because I say that against the background of the famous story that we know here from the Caribbean of Dwight York and Graham Taylor's trip to Aston Villa to Trinidad and Tobago, and suddenly he happens upon this young man who was a star for Aston Villa, one of the Premier League's most dangerous strikers. Then he went to Manchester United and went to another level. John Barnes could play football in Jamaica before he went to the UK. And those are just two of the names, two talents who showed their ability here in this part of the world before going on to make it massive for themselves in the United Kingdom. So are you looking at Jamaica and say, right, we know what the island is known for. We should be able to find some kids at least who we can take to the next level. Is that your line of thinking?
I'm absolutely certain, and wherever their pathway ends up, whether it is at Fleetwood, whether it's one of the global clubs we have, undoubtedly. You know, funnily enough, just before I came on air, I was just sort of Googling a little bit around. I knew, obviously, the Jamaican players, the Raheem Sterlings, but I was literally just looking right into the Football League about what players in the Football League were actually born in Jamaica. And I was surprised myself about how many. Obviously, I thought a lot have come from parentage and grandparents, etc. But I was surprised at the number who was actually born in Jamaica. You know, a nation of only 3 million people, which is only slightly less than Croatia, Uruguay, and 10 times the greater the population than Iceland, where obviously the Jamaican manager is Icelandic, and how well they've done. So I think definitely the sporting culture, athletics, cricket, football, the island is providing them. It's just clubs like ourselves and other partners who will be visiting is showing them pathways, and I suppose providing them with the intellectual property we hold in the UK, the experience we've got with our coaching, and the network we have within the clubs, in giving these boys and girls, in some instances, the best opportunities to grow and develop. And some of them will not be professional footballers. Let's not beat around the bush, but they will get a great experience. They will develop as people. They'll develop as football, and they will be given and shown the right pathways in where they can enjoy their football. Not necessarily some of them to make lots and lots of money. Let's hope we find the one or two who do, but generally to put them onto the right path within the sport. And
I have to ask you this, Steve, because again, at this stage, we're talking about the youngsters especially, even though the combine is for those from 13 to 24. At this stage, it's the parents or the guardians who will make the decision. And in the same way that the participants will be competing to catch the eyes of the scouts, so the scouts are also competing against themselves to be the ones to convince a parent to entrust their child's development with a particular club. So can you say that the value proposition that Fleetwood Town puts on the table will be significant enough, compelling enough to make a parent say, yeah, this probably looks like the right place for my child?
Yeah, of course, everyone can explain how something works and ultimately, talk the good game, but I think what we want parents to do is to look into what we are as well. It's not just about the here and now, in those conversations. Ricky Santos, it's about the individual, it's about people, it's about putting trust into people. And also, we've been at this a long time. We wouldn't be running our Fleetwood International Football Academy and all the clubs that we have around the world if we weren't, we weren't delivering upon what our reputation suggests. So, yeah, we can convince a parent there, but we'd also ask the parent to look into what we do, to look at some of our testimonials and to speak to people who are maybe closer to them as well than certainly we will be, to talk about what we are proposing for the child.
Yeah, and so, Vanny, the week that's coming up, the 8 days, very, very important. Mount Pleasant continues to blaze trail, not been around for long, but the impact is already huge. People watching this program are saying, well, where do I go to find details about the program and registration and the like? What can you tell us about that?
I think that's one thing.
They can hit us up, George, on any of our social media pages, but also they can visit the Mount Pleasant Academy website at www.mountpleasantacademy.org. So they can go there, but once they visit our Facebook page or our Twitter page, they'll see us there, or they can call us at Mount Pleasant here. We can provide details. They register online, and the links will be sent to them. They can reach us through any of those media.
Yeah, and you told me at the start that you expect a heavy subscription for this combine, and a point that doesn't often get mentioned in discussions like these, but in context it's very important. Parents entrusting their children effectively to strangers. Mount Pleasant has a sterling reputation already. What can you say about leaving your child or ward in the care of Mount Pleasant for the period that child will be involved in the combine?
Your child will be well taken care of, George. We have a reputation that says we provide care. Our motto here is excellence, a way of life, and everything that we do, we try to ensure that we keep living that. And when it comes to taking care of children, there is no better place in Jamaica for your son or your daughter, who in this case, who is going to be at this combine, to be safe. We ensure we do all that is required to protect them, to provide for them, and to care for them.
Excellent. Vanny, thank you very much for speaking with us. Steve, all the best to you. And we wish you all the best scouting-wise from January 20 to 28.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Excellent. Mount Pleasant's combine January 20 to 28 at their complex in Runaway Bay. It is exciting, and SportsMax will be bringing to you some of the highlights from the days of activity as the next generation look to impress those who can help them to get a leg up on the ladder to success. Thank you for watching SportsMax on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay informed.